We're going to explore a story today that's, well, it's tough. It's about what happens when love and memory get pushed way past their breaking point. It's a really tragic case, but if we look at it closely, it reveals something pretty profound about how we process grief and what happens when that process goes terribly, terribly wrong.
It all started with a grim discovery. Police enter an apartment and find a mother and her daughter, but the mother, she'd been dead for over a year, and the daughter had taken her own life much more recently. This scene was an absolute tragedy, but it was also a deep, deep mystery.
And this forces us to ask a really difficult question. What is actually going on inside someone's mind when love and grief go so catastrophically sideways? This isn't just about loss. It's about these incredibly powerful forces of devotion and memory being stretched to their absolute limit. How does a person even get to that point?
To even begin to answer that, we have to look at the facts. Because the daughter wasn't just living with her deceased mother. No, she was locked in this desperate, all-consuming battle to stop time itself. And it was a battle that would, in the end, completely consume her.
So investigators started piecing together this timeline, and it painted a picture of just intense devotion and crushing isolation. For over a year, the daughter had been trying to preserve her mother's body using ice and chemicals, a daily ritual fighting against natural decay. She completely shut out the world, turning away concerned neighbors who tried to check in. It was only when she also vanished from sight that police were finally called, and they uncovered the heartbreaking reality of what was happening inside that apartment.
Now, to try and make sense of something this extreme, we're going to use a framework from our source material. It's called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM for short. And it gives us this fascinating, almost mechanical way to map out the invisible internal war that was tearing the daughter apart from the inside.
So, the BKM imagines our thoughts and our feelings as these little bundles of energy it calls strain packages. Think of them like competing frequencies or even magnets inside your head. For us to feel okay, to feel balanced, they all need to be in harmony. But when these forces start to clash, well, the entire system can become dangerously unstable.
BKM breaks these mental forces down by scale, and for this story, two of them are absolutely crucial. First, you've got microstrains. These are like tiny, super powerful dots of thought, like a perfect condensed memory. And then you have macrostrains. These are the big, ongoing experiences, like a daily routine, or everything coming in from your senses. The conflict between these two, that's where the story really turns.
So here it is, the heart of the problem. Inside the daughter's mind, two of these strain packages were locked in a totally unwinnable war. On one side, the powerful, perfect memory of her mother, and on the other, the overwhelming daily physical reality of her mother's body. So on one side of this war, you have what BKM calls a daughter strain. This is the daughter's memory of her mother, and it's not just one memory, it's all of them. Every single laugh, every conversation, every moment, all condensed down into this one perfect, timeless idea of mother. It's like a spiritual essence, a force that is stable and never, ever changes. But fighting against that perfect memory was the macro strain, the day-in, day-out physical reality of the body. The sight, the smell, the endless, exhausting ritual of preservation. This force wasn't timeless at all. It was completely chained to decay, entropy, and the relentless forward march of time.
And right here, you can see the impossible conflict just laid bare. One force, the memory, is timeless and stable, and it demands that the mother be preserved forever. But the other force, the physical body, is trapped in time and decay, and it demands to be released. Her mind was literally trying to hold two completely opposite realities at the same time. They just couldn't coexist.
You know, a mind just can't sustain a conflict like this forever. Something had to give. With absolutely no way to resolve this clash between memory and reality, the daughter's entire mental world, it just started to fracture.
Just imagine it. A constant, painful whiplash inside your own head. Every time she cherished the memory of her mother's spirit, the physical reality of the body would scream that it wasn't true. And every time she confronted the body, that perfect, beautiful memory was violated. Her mind was trapped in this brutal oscillation, a tug-of-war with no possible winner.
The BKM model actually shows this as a four-step collapse. It starts with that internal conflict, the endless back and forth. But her intense isolation, that was the critical accelerator. By cutting off everyone, she basically created a psychological pressure cooker. There was no one to ground her, no outside feedback to ease the strain, so it just built and built and built until her mind's safe operating limits were breached, and the whole system just shattered.
And that brings us to this really powerful conclusion from the source material. From this BKM perspective, her suicide wasn't just an act of despair. It was, and I quote, a collapse of continuity. It was the system itself breaking down, the mind's operating system just crashing. It was the only possible escape from an unbearable mental war between two forces that could never, ever be reconciled.
So, why doesn't this happen to everyone who loses someone they love? This case, in its extremity, actually shows us something universal about why we, as humans, have developed rituals around grief. Turns out they're not just for show. They are essential tools for the mind.
I mean, really think about it. Funerals, burials, memorials. Why do we do these things? According to the Brain Kinematics Model, these rituals serve a vital psychological function. They are specifically designed to prevent the exact kind of mental fracture that this daughter experienced.
Here's the core idea. Healthy mourning is a process of transfer. Rituals like funerals are basically tools that are designed to help us move our devotion away from the physical body that's gone and attach it firmly and safely to the timeless memory that remains. They give us a clear moment to say goodbye to one reality and fully embrace the other. And, crucially, because these rituals are social, they spread that immense psychological strain across an entire community. The daughter's isolation was so fatal because it forced her to bear that entire impossible strain all by herself.
And that leaves us with a final, much broader question to think about. When you look at this tragic case through the BKL lens, it reframes social rituals not as some old-fashioned traditions, but as highly sophisticated tools for keeping our minds in balance. And it really makes you wonder, in our modern, often isolated world, what other essential tools for the mind might we be neglecting, or have we forgotten how to use altogether?